INARA Paladins' newest champion has finally been revealed and is coming in the next patch, which we don't know when it'll come, but very soon. And also the public test server has just gone down, so it's likely being patched, so we might be able to play her tonight. And if she does go up, I'll be live streaming and running subscriber games and games with people from the Discord, so be sure to check that out. But let's get on with INARA. So a lot of our predictions were wrong. We all thought that INARA, because in Arabic the name means light, she'd be this sort of Arabic geomancer. Well, she actually is sort of a stone person. She's basically got stony skin, and she's apparently 2 times the size of Maeve and a very lanky and tall female indeed. And as a lanky person myself, I think we can see eye to eye. I'm 6'5", maybe she's a bit higher, maybe like 7 foot something. Apparently she's taller than Fernando as well. And again, she is the first female frontliner, which a lot of people ask for. But hey, just another frontliner giving more options is a good for me. She looks actually rather cool. She's got a stone sort of halo thing that goes around her back, and with animations it can revolve around her and does some pretty cool stuff whilst in the game as well. We already saw the stone staff, but we also know what it does now, and I'll talk about that in the abilities. And she also has this sort of back scarfy thing, and I tried to Google it and look what it was called. I've seen it in a few animes before, and I think in Konosuba, one of the new comedy animes, Aqua, the goddess, has one around her back as well. I'm not sure exactly what it's about, but a lot of sort of goddess and sort of regal people in the anime wear these things, and INARA is from sort of a race of very noble people, and is humanoid, and I guess maybe a little above normal humans and mortals. But yes, she is an earthbender, or geomancer, whatever you would like to call it. And her animations are really cool, with just bending the rocks around her, making them fly and flutter a bit like birds flying around her. But generally, just really cool. I really like the animations on this champion. One of the best things about her. Anyway, let's get into the nitty gritty. First of all, she's got 4,400 HP, which is relatively normal for a frontliner. And coming onto her abilities, first off, with her left click, her normal fire, is her weapon a spear or staff, whatever you'd like to call it. I'd probably call it a staff that fires off rocks, but they want to call it a spear. But basically 3 stones on the tip of the weapon rotate around, and each one of these fires out. And basically there's a total of 15 shots before you have to reload. I call it a magazine, but it's not really a magazine. And each of these is in a 3-shot burst. Each shot does 225 damage. She is a projectile champion, so at range they do have some drop, but they said and showed that the fire can pretty much go across the map. And one of the interesting things about her is a stun can interrupt the 2nd or 3rd shot, which is quite a downside to her. But not a lot of champions can stun that often, so how much impact it will have, I'm not entirely sure. But could be enough just for you to get the edge over her and take her out. Next up we have Earthen Guard, and this puts down a wall. And I know we're going to get some jokes about some of the political happenings recently, but I decided to tactically not mention that in my videos, as that would be another flame wall to add on to the Overwatch / Paladin stuff, and I guess this wall does have something there as well, but we're not going to go over that. Anyway, this wall is a deployable, so Bulldozer, the card, may actually be useful here, and seeing as new players seem to be picking up a lot because it's the coolest looking card in the aggressive cards, even when there isn't somebody to use it against, now that INARA will probably be picked every game, as she's the newest champion, it might actually be useful, so even the newbies might benefit from this. Also, as this is a deployable, and it's not a shield, you can't actually see either side of it and you can't fire through it. However, it is takedownable, so you can destroy it. As I said, Bulldozer does work on it. Once you use this wall, it's enabled until it goes down, and I think you can take it down, and also it has a beefy cooldown of 15 seconds. You can also drop it below you and you go on top of it, so you can use it to either just interrupt how the enemy are firing at you and confuse them a bit and then fire down from above, or use it to get to cover that's above you and just generally run away. And you can also drop it down if you look directly below you, and it'll go behind you and block somebody off from chasing you. Which is a good thing because she doesn't have any movement abilities and she doesn't have any cards that make her move faster. So she is the only champion at the moment with absolutely no movement options. So Nimble is the only option open to her. However, this Q, as you can use it under yourself, is almost like a movement ability, and blocking people off as well, and blocking off routes is kind of her escape. One thing that you need to consider is that the payload cart will simply smash through the wall, so it's absolutely useful in that sort of engagement, and if the payload is close. If you use it in the point section of Siege mode and you block off an entrance, it could be an amazing zoning tool to stop people from going through the fastest route. So up next is F, and this is Warder's Field, and basically you place down an obelisk that sort of smashes into the ground and creates sort of like a quake in a circle around it, and everybody in that area will be slowed and takes a small amount of damage, something similar to Kinessa's Mines. It lasts roughly 6 seconds and has a 12-second cooldown. Again, this is destroyable with Bulldozer, so Bulldozer is her counter really, that when you put down your wall and you put down your Warder's Field, there's sort of two options what to take out. I guess it gives you that choice of whether or not you want to get through a wall or be able to move around more and maybe dodge the fire that you're taking from the enemy team. The Warder's Field does drop very close to you, so you can't tactically place it next to an enemy, so you have to be really quite close to them. But it seems like a rather cool ability, and there's actually a legendary card that I'll talk about a bit later that makes it a rather more insane. Next is her right click, and this gives 30% damage reduction to herself, which can be buffed in her legendary cards. I'll talk about that in a second. And it's basically like Ruckus Q, but only on herself. And it also extends to her deployables, so the wall and the obelisk will get buffed up. And sort of the tactical ability that you'll be using with her and timing this all of the time, I guess is a bit like Torvald's shield as well, but just on yourself, and quite a big one. Finally, her ultimate is Seismic Crash, and you throw a spear which AoE stuns in a large area and lasts 2 seconds, so it is like a Grumpy Bomb, but instantly goes off and there's no delay, and it's got long range, and you can also fire it from top of your wall if you go on top of it. So it has a lot of things going for it, and nobody can really dodge it. So it means that you're definitely going to get that 2-second stun if you have the aim. I mean, some people might miss it, but that's their problem. Also, the projectile goes through shields and will still fire and do the stun through that shield and do the damage as well, which could be insane against something like a Fernando, which would knock off his shield, or anybody that really puts down a shield, a Baron's shield, or anybody in a point. Basically, it just breaks up that sort of death ball clump and stuns everybody for a few seconds, so you can just spam loads of damage on them with no repercussions. The only counter to this, actually, is another Inara and having another wall up, so in casual matches, it may be a bit more counterable. Finally, let's talk about the legendaries. So the first one is called Mother's Grace, and this means that Earthen Guard, your right click will gain 20% extra damage reduction. This one could be picked up, as it will go on top of your normal reduction, so you'll have a 50% total damage reduction, which is kind of a big deal. And it also goes onto your deployables, so just makes everything that you've put down, especially if you've got all your deployables up, very hard to take out. The next one is called Treacherous Ground, and this one changes your F, your Warder's Field, so that it now cripples. And what cripple does is means that enemies can't use their movement abilities whilst they're inside this, just like Grover's Axe unless you have the legendary which roots them. So people inside this won't be able to F and roll out or fly up or anything like that, so it could cause people to panic. Personally, because it's such a small area, and even though it slows quite a bit, I do wonder, without a root or something, is it actually that useful compared to having the 50% damage reduction? We'll just have to see. It might actually be a big one. We'll just have to see how the actual Warder's Field plays out in the game, and hopefully we'll see that in the PTS and in the coming days. Next one is Tremors. The wall has a cooldown reduction of 7 seconds, and as I said before, it has a massive cooldown of 15 seconds, so that really reduces it down to 8 seconds, so you'll be able to spam it pretty much. This one could be a big one, and as I said, you can sort of block off routes for enemies to come through and completely zone areas off, and it is your escape, and also gives quite a lot of movement options and positioning options when you use it and drop it down and maybe take some of your allies on top of it. Some of my final thoughts on this: she doesn't actually have any movement abilities or inherently, and as we saw with Tyra, it is such a Debbie Downer not to have any movement at all, and can make or break a champion. However, I do think that she's all about the utility. Again, like Torvald, who doesn't have movement inherently, he had all of the repairing and things like that, but now she has the walls, putting those down, and the Warder's Field to slow, which is sort of an escape because it's slowing down your enemies whilst you try and get away. And she probably will be able to basically come out of fights and get back in again. And as I said, with the walls, dropping that wall out and zoning is a big deal. I also think with a wall instead of a shield, putting that down and not allowing your enemies to see in and try and formulate a plan of how to attack you all is quite a big positive, and means that they can't come in and focus down one person if they can't see it, but then again, you can't see through it either. And I think that with another shielding champion, so if you had a Fernando as well, or a Barracks putting down a shield, the enemy team has to take Wrecker, Bulldozer, or neither, or focus on just one of them to deal with both of you, and that could be some good synergy for how you play out this game, and especially, I guess, with the Torvald as well. When you're having that massive shield, enemies will be wanting to pick up Wrecker, but then they'll also have to deal with all your deployables that you're spamming down, which the damage dealers will want to be taking Bulldozer for, so it might actually split the damage up so there isn't one massive focus, because at the moment when their tank is up, it's usually Wrecker that is their direct counter. Anyway, what does everyone else think? And I'm sure we'll be able to get it to play her very shortly, and I'm very much looking forward to playing her actually. I was actually surprised. I thought it was going to be another sort of vanilla humanoid, and actually I was quite impressed by how she was a stone person. When I said on Twitter that it was going to be a stone person, I think I was half correct, so we got there. Anyway, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Like if you enjoyed it, dislike if you didn't, and subscribe for more of my content. Until next time everybody, Joshino.